Hey everyone, I'm T Frank, and today I want to talk about the Canon RP. I picked this camera up as soon as it was released, so I probably had it for about 2.5 years. And in this video, I wanted to let you know my experience with it and if I still think it's worth your hard earned cash in 2021. All right, so first thing let's go ahead and talk about is the price. So the RP is one of the cheapest full frame cameras that you can purchase on the market today. And when I purchased it at $1,299 for the body only. And now you can really get some great deals on this camera. I've seen it drop as low as $687. Yes, you heard that right. And that was refurbished on Canon's website, which gives you the 1-year warranty. And then I've also seen it for $899.99, brand new, best body only. So the price of this camera is what allowed me to jump into the full frame game a lot earlier than I anticipated. And I feel like this camera offers such a great value. The size of this camera is one of the main reasons that I picked it up. I love how small and compact it is. It really isn't big and cumbersome, so it's perfect for when I do photography or even handheld videography at events. As for the ergonomics, I think the button layout and the overall ergonomics make it a joy to use. It's not built out of extremely premium materials, but it feels pretty solid in the hands. So the RP gives you most of the frame rates that you need now in 1080p. So 24 frames per second was added with the firmware update. You also have 30 frames per second and 60 frames per second. In addition to that, you have dual pixel autofocus, a headphone jack, fully articulating screen, and you can see the audio levels when recording. And you also have clean HDMI. So this camera pretty much gives you all that you need for 1080p. Now 4K is a different story, so I'll talk more about that later in this video. Now let's talk photography. So when I picked this camera up, I was actually looking at it more for photography. I understood the limitations that it had for video, but I still thought that it would be a great step into the full frame lineup for someone that was coming from the Rebel line and who considered themselves to be a beginner. So when I started taking pics with the RP, I really liked the look of the full frame camera, and I also felt that the pictures were better in low light than my Rebel cameras. So I was happy with this purchase. The RP also shoots in 5 frames per second continuous, which is not too impressive, but will get the job done if you're not doing anything that's fast like sports or some type of action photography. I also like the fact that I could use the new RF lenses that have great quality, and it's where I believe Canon is shifting most of their focus. These lenses are on the pricier end, but we're starting to see some lower priced RF lenses be released. I'm also hoping that Sigma is working on some RF mount lenses as well. As mentioned previously, dual pixel autofocus is present on this camera, so this is an automatic win for me. It has eye autofocus for video and photo, and this was made even better with firmware updates shortly after the camera was released. I've actually been amazed with how far out the RP can lock onto the eye for both video and photo. One important thing to note is that dual pixel autofocus is not available in 4K, so the focusing in 4K is pretty bad, and I wouldn't recommend using it unless you shoot in manual. With 4K, you also have a heavy crop, so you'll need to use either a wide angle lens or just move the camera back as far as you can. Canon cameras are super easy to use, and the RP isn't an exception. The menus are easy to navigate through, and the touchscreen is just as responsive as a smartphone. Overall, I think this is a great camera. However, I do have a few gripes with the RP. Battery life is pretty decent if you're just doing photos. So I've taken pictures for about an hour at an event, and the battery life was great. I got well over the estimated 250 shots, and this is with me turning the camera off when I'm not shooting. So battery becomes an issue when you do video and photo, or even just video alone. So even though I have multiple batteries, I find it annoying to have to constantly watch the battery indicator and to have to change the battery while I'm trying to capture that important moment. Another frustration for me is no high frame rate option. So the RP doesn't give you the option for 120 frames per second. It only goes up to 60 frames per second in 1080p. Another issue that I have with the RP is the limitations that it has for EFS lenses. So I did an entire video on this, and it explains the limitations for video and photo. So I'll throw up a card in this video, and then I'll also link it in the description. Another thing that you can't do on the RP is customize the video settings. So I'm hoping that this is something that Canon will push out in an update. It's really convenient to be able to set up custom 24 frames per second or 60 frame per second settings for running gun shooting situations. It just makes it so much easier when you're doing events. You don't really have to think about it. You can customize a setting and switch back and forth seamlessly. And my last gripe with the Canon RP is the fact that there is no dual pixel autofocus in 4K. Now, some may say the biggest gripe is the fact that there's that crop, but to be honest, I think you can work around the crop. But the fact that there's no dual pixel autofocus in 4K, I think that just makes your job a little bit more difficult. You can shoot in manual, but I really just think that this is something that should have been included on the RP. So to answer the question of this video, is this still worth your hard-earned cash in 2021? I say yes. If you need a solid 1080p camera and a solid stills camera, I still think this is a great pickup and recommend buying it refurbished directly from Canon so that you can save money to invest in these expensive RF lenses and also be backed by the 1-year warranty.